Hi, this is Eric Teplitz, and for today's daily insight, I want to talk about disappointments and setbacks. Yes! Look, there's no getting around it. When we face a disappointment or a setback in life, it sucks, it stings, it hurts, and it's just not fun. But what I'd like to suggest in this video is that we can use anything that happens to us. If we're going to suffer anyway, we might as well find a way to get something or make something positive out of it. It can be easier said than done, but it absolutely can be done. I'm going to share a few examples from my own life just to kind of give you an idea. So, example number one. When I was in college, there was a young woman, a fellow student, that I became kind of close with. I was really, really interested in her, and she liked me enough to hang out with me and spend time with me, but my romantic interests didn't seem very requited. And in fact, she was dating another guy. And as time went on, even though we would still hang out together, she became increasingly serious with the guy. Anyway, so it's the summer after we graduate from college, and I happened to be on campus for a summer job, and I ran into her. And she was really excited to see me. Oh, how you doing? This kind of thing. And we, caught up with each other. And she said, "Oh, I'm getting married." Great. And she literally pulled out from her purse an invitation and handed it to me and said, "Hey, why don't you come?" Needless to say, this stung. So I went back to my room and I pulled out my songwriting notebook and I wrote down the following two lines. "You invite me to your wedding, but not as the groom." Now, 2 years later, those lyrics ended up becoming the opening lines to the opening song on a CD that I put out. So that's an example of getting something out of a disappointing experience. I got a song out of it. It didn't make it sting any less, and it didn't make it any less painful, but at least I was able to fashion it into something positive, something that was a win for me. The song would never have been written were it not for that experience. Okay, example number two. Fast forward, I am now 29 years old and living in Los Angeles, and I have these two very hopeful things appear in my life. One is a job opportunity, and I made a really passionate case for myself just to get the interview, and then I interviewed for this job and was really hopeful about it. At the same time, yes, once again, there's a young woman involved here. I met this woman. We had all these interests in common. It was really striking. And we went out several times, and I was very interested in a relationship with her. Needless to say, the job fell through. She was not interested in a romantic relationship with me. And I was left kind of crushed and really disappointed and feeling like, well, now what the hell do I do? The previous year, I had read a book called A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson about his attempt to hike the Appalachian Trail. And this really planted a seed in me. I thought this would be an amazing experience. It was sort of a fantasy. But at this point in time, after these setbacks happened and I didn't know what to do with myself, I realized that there was an opportunity here because people who are attempting to thru hike the Appalachian Trail tend to start around March or April to give themselves enough time to hike the entirety of the trail potentially before the weather becomes prohibitive. And I realized that this was an opportunity that I could seize. And I did. And in fact, I got myself on the Appalachian Trail with a fully loaded backpack and proceeded to have one of the most amazing adventures of my life. This very likely would never have happened were it not for those setbacks that set it in motion. In every setback and disappointment, there is the potential to gain something out of it, to use it. Use it to your advantage in some way. It's very possible that that the stars would never have aligned and given me a perfect opportunity that I would then have been able to seize to go on an extended long distance backpacking trip, really an indefinite one. But this opportunity appeared and I seized it. All right, I'm going to give you one last example from my own life. In 2016, I went on a bowling kick. When I get into something, I tend to really get into it. So I really threw myself into bowling for a period of time, was doing it too frequently and too aggressively, and ended up with a bizarre nerve injury that really affected my gait. My walking was really off, and let alone running. Running was not an option whatsoever. And I didn't know what to do about it. I literally went to, over the course of the next several months, I saw 7 different specialists. I went to 3 different physical therapists, an orthopedist, a physiatrist, look it up. I went to see a neurosurgeon and a neurologist. And for the most part, they were perplexed and really not able to offer me much. The conclusion was essentially that I had some localized nerve damage. It likely would heal on its own at a very slow rate. And it has. It has improved. It has not completely healed even now. But what this did was this really forced me to scale back my physical activity. In my 30s, I was extremely physically active and did all kinds of endurance events, races, running, cycling, swimming, lots of hiking and backpacking. And this happened to me in my early 40s, and it forced me to significantly scale back my physical activity. I really had no choice. So what I did was, since this created a void that I needed to fill somehow, I decided that this would be the perfect opportunity to do something I had wanted to do for quite a long time, completely unrelated, and that was to take piano lessons and to learn classical piano. And so I did. I used this setback that forced me into far less physical activity, and I filled that void by finding a really great piano teacher and taking piano lessons and learning some classical piano. The piano continues to bring me a lot of joy and satisfaction. I love music. I love learning music. So it's a gift that I gave myself, and maybe I would have given it to myself at some point in the future, but I used that setback as an opportunity to do so at that moment. Now, there are people that have suffered far worse fates than I have, far more traumatic events than I have. And even they have been able to use these things. Now, of course, it doesn't take away from the pain of them, but it offers people a way to create meaning from that pain. If they're going to suffer the pain anyway, they might as well put it to some positive use in their lives and or in the world at large. People have used traumas and tragedies that have occurred to them in significantly positive ways. They have, in some cases, it kickstarts activism. In some cases, someone will write a book sharing their experiences in such a way that touches and moves people, makes them feel less alone, helps them to make some kind of meaning out of their experience. The point being, you can use anything and everything that happens to you in life if you are determined to find a way to do so. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.